Everyone around you sees the same routine. You wake up, clock in, grind through the day, come home, maybe eat dinner, maybe scroll your feed until sleep takes you. To the outside world, you're ordinary, predictable, just another face in the crowd. But quietly, beneath that surface, you're constructing something vast, an empire that doesn't announce itself. You're laying bricks in silence while everyone else chases applause. And by the time they realize what you've built, it'll be too late for them to compete. Niccolo Machiavelli would have called this the art of concealment, the discipline of appearing harmless while consolidating real strength. He wrote that it's better to be feared than loved, but never hated. Translated to our age, build your fortune quietly. Don't provoke envy. Don't broadcast every move. Let your results whisper. Let the numbers speak when you no longer have to. Every man who's truly risen from the merchants of Florence to today's billionaires has lived by this rule. The Medici family, for instance, disguised their empire behind the facade of banking. Their ledgers looked boring, but behind those numbers, they orchestrated papal elections, wars, and art that still defines culture today. Their power was invisible and therefore unstoppable. That's what you must become. The invisible architect, the quiet strategist, the man no one notices until his influence is already woven into everything. The first law of unseen wealth is this: master the low profile, appear modest, even average. Machiavelli said, men judge more by the eye than by the hand. In modern terms, people confuse symbols of success with substance. So, let them. Drive a car that blends in. Dress as if you earn less than you do. Live in comfort, not display, because every signal you send awakens envy, and envy is resistance disguised as admiration. The modern man chases validation through visibility, but the wise know attention is the enemy of progress. Every post, every flex, every subtle boast steals energy from the work itself. When you get a raise, resist the urge to upgrade your life. When your business grows, reinvest instead of celebrating. Because every dollar you don't waste on appearance becomes a soldier in your private army of capital. There's a psychological law here, one most people ignore. It's called delayed self-signaling. When you reward yourself too early, your brain interprets it as the end of the journey. The dopamine rush of showing off tricks you into thinking you've already won. That's why so many stop right before compounding begins. The rich resist that impulse. They keep their outer life constant while their inner world compounds power in silence. And this quiet compounding doesn't just grow your wealth, it rewires your identity. Neuroscience calls this identity-based behavior. When your habits align with the person you're becoming, not the person you're performing as, change becomes automatic. You no longer chase validation because you've replaced it with momentum. Now, Machiavelli had another insight that still cuts deep. Fortune is a woman, and if you wish to keep her under, you must beat her and strike her down. It sounds brutal, but his meaning was psychological. Fortune opportunity doesn't yield to hesitation. It surrenders only to bold, deliberate action. And in our age, boldness isn't loud, it's strategic. The second rule of invisible wealth is motion. Learning how to move money before it decays. Money left idle loses strength. Inflation is quiet corrosion. Every dollar sitting still is slowly dying. So, you must move capital like blood through veins never stagnant, always flowing toward growth. The merchants of Florence risked their ships across oceans, knowing some would sink, but a few would return with fortunes. Today's elite do the same with capital they invest before time eats it. Your goal isn't to hoard money, but to deploy it. Every dollar is an agent of influence. Send it to work in places where it multiplies without you. Assets, ownership, leverage. The poor cling to cash and watch it fade. The powerful circulate it and watch it return multiplied. But precision matters more than speed. Machiavelli said, "He who builds on the people builds on mud." Meaning, don't follow the crowd, don't chase hype or trends. The masses gamble. The strategist invests. If you internalize this, that money must constantly move from decay to growth, from liability to leverage, you begin to see how the wealthy think. You stop asking, "What can I buy?" and start asking, "What can I build that earns while I sleep?" Yet beneath this financial wisdom lies a psychological one. Attention is your true currency. Every moment spent comparing, scrolling, performing is a moment stolen from creation. The average man gives his focus to others' fortunes while neglecting his own potential. Machiavelli advised isolation, not loneliness, but clarity. He said, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command himself." In this century, command begins with silence. Financial silence, social silence, mental silence. Because the moment you announce your ambitions, you create opposition. The moment you share your next move, you surrender leverage. Your power decays in proportion to your exposure. Ask yourself, are you building quietly or performing loudly? Are you the unseen architect or the man narrating his plans to people who'll never understand them? Here lies the dividing line between the dreamer and the strategist. The dreamer seeks validation. The strategist seeks victory. And that brings us to a deeper layer of the Machiavellian code, how to make your money move for you, silently and automatically, while you remain invisible. Because true power isn't in motion alone, it's in controlled motion. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the bold, but boldness without calculation is suicide. The wise act with speed and precision, not noise. Your money, like your influence, must never sleep. Think of it as a disciplined army, trained, obedient, and always deployed toward expansion. Cash left idle is a sleeping army in a field it eats. It weakens, it costs you victory. Inflation is the silent thief of empires. Men forgive the loss of a father sooner than the loss of their patrimony, Machiavelli warned. Lose money through laziness, and fortune rarely returns. The rich, therefore, practice a relentless discipline. No dead money, no dead time. Wealth must flow. And in the next stage of your journey, you'll learn the next layer of this philosophy, how to protect your growing power through silence, precision, and the ancient law of concealment. Because power that's visible is power that's vulnerable. Machiavelli once observed that the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. To survive, a ruler must learn to be both the lion for strength, the fox for stealth. This balance, force, and discretion forms the third rule of quiet wealth, concealment of action. In today's world, exposure is the new vulnerability. Every image, every post, every self-congratulatory update is a thread someone else can pull. Visibility is a drug. It feeds the ego, but poisons strategy. Unless your livelihood depends on attention, unless you trade in visibility itself, you must disappear from the algorithmic battlefield, because what thrives on exposure dies by it. The digital stage is filled with performers mistaking attention for achievement. Every boast becomes an open invitation for envy, imitation, or sabotage. Those who broadcast every win are building castles with glass walls. The powerful, in contrast, cultivate mystique. They speak little. They move rarely. They reveal nothing. In Renaissance Italy, political figures used silence like armor. They layered misinformation, rumors, and coded alliances to hide their true intentions. In our age, the elite achieve the same invisibility with NDAs, private equity structures, and corporate veils. They've learned the cardinal truth of Machiavellian power. What people cannot measure, they cannot manipulate. That's why your privacy is currency. Every detail you give away your earnings, your goals, your investments, weakens your leverage. Delete the need for validation. Protect your narrative like a state secret. The man who moves quietly wins twice, first in reality and again in surprise. And yet, concealment is not paranoia, it's strategy. In psychology, this is known as information asymmetry, the state of knowing more than others and revealing less. Every negotiation, every deal, every opportunity tilts in your favor when the other side can't predict your moves. That's why you never explain, you never defend, You let time reveal your strength. Now, once your silence becomes habit, you're ready for the next frontier, long-term compounding. Machiavelli wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does at last. The fool waits for perfect timing. The wise plan early, allowing time to do the heavy lifting." In modern finance, this principle becomes automation, the boring, consistent discipline of investing, month after month, year after year, without the emotional turbulence that wrecks most fortunes. Forget speculation. Forget the adrenaline rush of prediction. The market is a mirror of human fear and greed. The strategist understands this and steps outside it. Automation is not laziness, it's humility. It's the recognition that consistency beats cleverness. Index funds, ETFs, recurring investments, these are your silent soldiers. Each one buys another fraction of the empire while you sleep. Think of the Venetian merchants sending fleets across the seas. They knew some ships would sink, but they also knew that over time, the few that returned would fund dynasties. That's diversification, not luck, but law. The modern elite follow the same rhythm: dull, disciplined, patient. They engineer boredom into profit. The average man wants excitement. The wise man wants results. Patience, as Machiavelli said, is the armor of rulers. The fool reacts, the strategist commands. This is the paradox of quiet wealth. The less thrilling it feels, the more powerful it becomes. Every automated deposit, every compounding cycle, is a silent proclamation of sovereignty. You're shifting from laboring for money to letting money labor for you. But with power comes a new form of fragility, dependence. A single source of income, no matter how large, is a single point of failure. And so, we arrive at the fourth rule: multiple streams of income. Machiavelli warned that a ruler with one fortress is vulnerable. A single castle, no matter how tall, can be starved, surrounded, or seized. But a ruler with many fortresses cannot be overthrown. Your income must follow the same law. If tomorrow your job disappears, if your business stumbles, what remains? Every additional source of cash flow, every rental unit, every digital product, every consulting gig is another fortress guarding your sovereignty. The average man builds one income and worships its security. The strategist builds many and worships none. The Medici didn't stop at banking. They expanded into land, art, and politics. Jeff Bezos didn't stop with books. He built clouds and infrastructure. Each frontier they opened became another wall of protection. You don't need billions to apply the same logic. You need structure. Start small: an online skill, a local service, an investment fund. What matters isn't the size of the stream, but the independence of its flow. Over time, your wealth shifts from paycheck to system. You move from earning to orchestrating. This transformation isn't financial alone, it's psychological. It's the shift from dependence to sovereignty. In neuroscience, this rewiring activates the prefrontal cortex, the center of executive control, which builds resilience against fear and uncertainty. You stop reacting to scarcity and start creating abundance. And once you've built these fortresses, you must protect them, not with noise, but with structure. This is the fifth rule of quiet wealth: legal fortification. In The Prince, Machiavelli advised rulers to build strongholds that guard their power, but to know when to hide them. In our time, that fortress is legal: an LLC, a trust, a corporation. Every asset you own under your name is exposed to the world's hunger. The wealthy understand this and operate behind layers of protection, each asset shielded by a separate entity. They don't do this because they expect attack. They do it because they prepare for it. Machiavellian thinking assumes betrayal as a rule of nature. It's not pessimism, it's realism, and it's what separates those who keep their fortune from those who lose it overnight. The Rockefellers, the Waltons, and modern billionaires don't just build companies, they build labyrinths of ownership, invisible empires designed to endure. The surface remains calm, but beneath it, armies of lawyers and accountants guard every move. And yet, the greatest defense is still the simplest: talk less. Every sentence you speak about your goals is a seed of interference. every boast is a beacon for envy. Machiavelli warned, "Never show the wound until you can strike." The silent builder protects his leverage by letting others think he has none. In your personal life, too, this law applies. Resist the urge to explain, to prove, to impress. Let your results speak quietly, inevitably, without permission. Because the moment you seek applause, you hand over your control. In this, psychology and philosophy meet perfectly. The Stoics called it apatheia, freedom from emotional disturbance. The Buddhists called it non-attachment. Machiavelli called it prudence. Different words, same truth. The one who speaks least controls most. There's a rule the powerful live by but rarely speak of. Give, but give in shadows. This isn't moral posturing, it's strategic grace. Charity done for applause is not virtue, it's performance. Machiavelli observed that men love at their own advantage, not yours. So, when you give, do it without announcement. Anonymous generosity preserves both your humility and your leverage. Quiet giving carries a strange kind of influence, invisible, soft, yet enduring. The Medici understood this centuries ago. They funded hospitals and cathedrals, often without their names attached. Their gifts built goodwill that outlasted enemies, built alliances that transcended transactions. Today's elite use a modern version of the same principal foundations: endowments, silent partnerships, not for fame, but for positioning. When you give quietly, you remind fortune that you command abundance without worshiping it. There's also a psychological dimension. Humility regulates power. Neuroscience shows that acts of private generosity activate the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for long-term planning and restraint. This neurological balance keeps greed from mutating into recklessness. It protects the strategist from his own ego. Because the greatest enemy of wealth isn't poverty, it's vanity. When the ego grows louder than reason, empires collapse, and that brings us to the next rule of hidden power. Control your environment. Even the sharpest mind dulls among fools. If your circle feeds on noise, comparison, and validation, your silence will suffocate there. You cannot think clearly in an ecosystem of chaos. Machiavelli urged princes to surround themselves with men of discretion and silence, not sycophants, not flatterers, but keepers of secrets. Your allies determine your altitude. The average man seeks friends who entertain him. The strategist seeks allies who fortify him. Reduce your circle until only those who guard your ambition remain. Those who don't crave attention but crave growth. Those who can listen to your vision and never feel envy. Those who understand that loyalty in silence is worth more than 1,000 followers online. In cognitive psychology, this principle is known as social contagion. The idea that emotions and behaviors spread like viruses. Spend enough time around people addicted to performance, and you'll start performing too. Surround yourself with thinkers, and your mind will sharpen to match theirs. That's why every empire falls not from invasion, but from leaks. The wrong conversation, the wrong confidant, the wrong whisper can undo years of work. Your inner circle must be your first fortress. Choose those who share your code. No gossip, no oversharing, no envy. Only quiet builders, thinkers, and creators. Because in this silent ascent, not everyone deserves a seat beside your throne. And yet, even after you've built wealth, fortified it legally, and protected it socially, one final transformation remains: mastering adaptation. Machiavelli wrote that fortune changes with the times, and those who adapt prosper. The man who fails to evolve becomes a prisoner of his own success. The 9th rule of quiet wealth is this: keep evolving quietly. Power is not possession, it's process. The moment you stop learning, your empire begins to decay. The wise ruler studies constantly. Lorenzo de' Medici funded libraries as eagerly as he funded wars. Warren Buffett spends hours each day reading, not because he's old-fashioned, but because he understands that knowledge compounds faster than capital. The market shifts, technology mutates, culture transforms, but the disciplined learner never fears these changes, he feeds on them. In psychology, this is called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself through new information. Continuous learning literally reshapes your mind, keeping it flexible, strategic, and alive. So keep reading what others overlook. Study the systems beneath the surface, the laws of money, the psychology of influence, the cycles of markets. Don't just learn to react, learn to anticipate. Because information is the modern currency of kings. Machiavelli called it the law of proximity. The quality of your advisors determines the fate of your reign. Your circle should reflect your direction. If your friends chase clout, you'll drown in distraction. If they chase mastery, you'll rise with them. Quiet evolution also requires restraint. The impatient man builds castles on sand. The patient man builds fortresses on stone. Most people chase novelty, new opportunities, new schemes, new distractions, because stillness terrifies them. But stillness is the soil of strategy. When your methods are calm, your compounding accelerates. When your life feels stable, your influence expands invisibly. This is the paradox. Power feels boring from the inside and breathtaking from the outside. The Stoics knew this well. Epictetus wrote that wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Machiavelli would have agreed the fewer the desires, the clearer the decisions. Because money doesn't make you powerful, discipline does. It's not the gold that defines the ruler, but how he uses it. Machiavelli said, "It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles." Likewise, it's not money that gives power, but character that gives money meaning. And this brings us to the paradox of hidden strength. The most powerful often look ordinary. The true strategist doesn't crave recognition. He can stand in a grocery line, unnoticed, while controlling empires through quiet precision. The appearance of modesty is not disguise, it's insulation. Your independence must be invisible. Your wealth must be unmeasurable. Your peace must be untouchable. To the world, you're still the man who clocks in, who eats dinner, who scrolls before bed. But behind that modest exterior, you're orchestrating movements no one can see, investments, habits, alliances, systems. You're designing sovereignty. Because in the end, wealth isn't the goal. It's a tool, a mirror, reflecting how well you understand yourself and the world. The loud crave validation, the silent build legacies. And the deeper truth is this: every show of strength creates a target. Every whisper of control builds immunity. So when fortune finally smiles, stay calm. When progress comes, stay grounded. The higher you rise, the quieter you must become. Because the more they know about you, the less control you have over them. As you ascend, you'll notice something unsettling. People begin to treat your silence as mystery, your calm as arrogance, your focus as distance. That's the cost of power in a noisy age. The world worships those who shout their success, but forgets that true sovereignty is quiet, not because it hides, but because it doesn't need to prove. Machiavelli understood this tension centuries ago. He warned that men are envious of those who rise above them, yet they despise the humble. The solution, he said, is to appear humble while living above envy. This is the paradox of hidden power. To be underestimated is to be protected. When you let others believe you are ordinary, you gain the freedom to move without interference. This is psychological camouflage, a cognitive strategy used by the most successful in history. Neuroscience tells us that humans are wired to overlook what doesn't threaten or compete. When you blend in, you bypass resistance. When you disappear from comparison, you become unstoppable. So keep your luxury invisible. Let your life be minimal in form, but maximal in control. The curb appeal of wealth, the cars, the watches, the houses, these are bait for attention. The real treasure is quiet sovereignty, the ability to move, think, and create without needing permission. That's why kings never announce their victories. They let history do it for them. Every public declaration is a loss of leverage. Every boast is an unpaid tax to envy. Fortune doesn't reward the loud, she rewards the disciplined. So, build in private. Protect your process like scripture. Every routine, every investment, every relationship that grows beneath the radar becomes part of your invisible dynasty. Machiavelli would tell you, fortune favors the disciplined, but she only remains with the discreet. Guard your time as fiercely as your money, because time is the original currency, the one you can never replace once spent. Most people waste it chasing appearances, but the wise turn time into equity. Every hour that isn't posted, every night that isn't broadcast, compounds in silence. This is what modern neuroscience calls deep work, the psychological state where focus sharpens, creativity expands, and output multiplies. It's where empires are built. You cannot reach it while performing for the crowd. Detach from noise. Delete the addiction to feedback, because applause is just dopamine, fleeting, deceptive, and corrosive. True mastery requires boredom. You must learn to be at peace in the silence where no one's watching, because that's where transformation hides. The wealthy, the powerful, the architects of reality, they are all invisible before they are undeniable. So protect not just your money but your mind space. Mental privacy is the last luxury left in a world obsessed with exposure. When you think deeply, you separate from the herd, and when you separate, you start to see the patterns. Others miss the biases, the herd instincts, the cycles of fear and greed that drive the masses. Social psychology calls this meta-awareness, the ability to observe society without being swallowed by it. It's how Machiavellian thinkers rise. They watch, they wait, they strike only when the field is quiet. And when they act, it looks effortless because the preparation was invisible. The modern world will tempt you to trade this silence for relevance, to post your every win, to turn your focus into content. But remember, every time you feed the algorithm, you starve your autonomy. The man who cannot be measured cannot be manipulated. So, when success finds you, stay grounded, keep your rituals private, give quietly, build silently, live below perception. Let your movements confuse the envious and comfort the ordinary. Because when no one knows how high you've climbed, no one can plan your fall. That's the final rule. Make invisibility your strength. Because power that's seen provokes fear. Power that's unseen commands nature. The less they see, the more they assume. The less you explain, the more mysterious your control becomes. This is not just financial advice, it's a philosophy of life. The same principle applies to your relationships, your goals, even your inner thoughts. Silence sharpens, noise diffuses. Stillness magnifies. Performance dilutes. Patience becomes your armor. Detachment, your fortress. Self-command, your crown. When the world screams for attention, let yours be the voice that never rises. When others perform, observe. When others chase, build. Because wealth, like wisdom, compounds only in quiet. Every quiet decision to save instead of spend, to learn instead of scroll, to build instead of boast, is another brick in the empire that no one knows you're creating. And one day, when your influence ripples through industries, when your fortune sustains generations, the world will call it luck, timing, genius. They won't understand it was patience all along. That's the invisible law Machiavelli never wrote, but every strategist lived. He who controls himself controls the world. So, as you move forward, remember, the goal isn't riches for display, but sovereignty of mind, the freedom to live unbothered, unmeasured, unchallenged. Let your empire grow behind closed doors. Let your name stay unspoken, because the less they know, the more secure your reign becomes. And when you walk through life, unnoticed, unshaken, unstoppable, you'll understand the truth behind every hidden dynasty. Power doesn't announce itself. It simply exists.